Hi, my name is Chet Neufeld. I'm the Executive Director of the Native Plant Society of Saskatchewan, and welcome to my native plant yard. About 15 years ago, my wife and I bought this house, and it was a brand new house, so it came with just a bare dirt lot. No actual soil, just this hard pan. So we had to truck in topsoil and start from scratch. And there were pros and cons to that. We had a clean slate to work with, no obvious or existing problems, but we had a lot of work to do. We tried to do it in steps to make it more manageable, but still we needed a quick cover before weeds would take over. We opted to go for native plants because both my wife and I are biologists. We work with native plants, and we wanted something different from the traditional yard. I remember as a kid mowing the lawn and then having my dad water and fertilize the lawn and having to mow it again. And I thought, this is craziness. Why is he making so much work for me? So with our native grass, we mow it once, and that's just at the end of the season to get the dead leaf matter off. But we do try and let everything go to seed. We also landscaped everything here. You'll see shots of this soon. And it may look wild and woolly to you, but it was all done with a purpose. We tried to incorporate as many different species into as many different areas as possible. So we've got a combination of native grassland with flowers interspersed. We've got just flower beds. We've got a shade garden. We've got a water garden. And all of this is to try and bring in different elements that would benefit different species of birds and beneficial insects like pollinators. So these are bee houses. This one was also purchased, and then this one was a homemade bee house just out of extra fence boards that we have stacked and drilled holes in. The reason we decided to provide bee houses is because we have a lot of bees that need chambers to nest in. Some are ground nesting bees. We also have ground nesting bees nesting in our wood chips and right into the soil in our yard. These types of bee nests will get things like leaf cutter bees and mason bees. And so you can see there are a number of different holes here of different sizes. That's for different species of bees. And they'll feed on the flowers here in this raised bed. And when they're ready, they'll go in, lay an egg, deposit a pollen or nectar snack, and then wall off that chamber and lay another egg, do the same thing, and repeat until it's filled up to the very edge. These ones you can just buy locally. This has an emergence chamber on the outside. So this little yellow tag here is a one-way door. Bees will push their way out and then they can't get in there to re-nest. And that allows the whole chamber to clear out, and then we can go in after the season's over and clean that out and get it ready for next year. These bottom two are for this year. This one was from last year. So we're just letting the bees get out of those. This one here came with these original cardboard tubes, and then we were struggling to find replacements because this was sent to us from our friends in the United States, and we ended up just getting some paper cocktail straws, and they've been filling them up, so it's worked really well. So yeah, before and after they emerge, they've got this nice little buffet of wildflowers to snack on before they go in, and it's perfect. They love it. We've had these nests fill up basically every year. This ground cover is called pussy toes. The reason why it's called pussy toes is because these flowers look like little cat toes, little cat paws. The genus is Antinaria. We have several different species of native Antinaria in Saskatchewan, some of them rare. This one's not rare. And it makes a really great ground cover. So you can plant seed. This one's going to seed right now. It's just got these fluffy little seeds that spread in the wind, and it also obviously creeps and makes a nice dense ground cover, not so dense that it doesn't choke everything out. So we've got native June grass coming through, some native western wheatgrass, this bluish green grass. We've got wild iris over here that's poking through. There's a tiny little purple flower, and it just is a beautiful ground cover because it flowers, so it produces nectar and pollen for our pollinators. It takes trampling really well. I walk over this several times a day. I've got a 6-year-old who plays on it all day, and it looks great. It's also easy to take pieces of and transplant. I've got some that grows onto my patio stones, and I'll just clip it with kitchen scissors, rake a little spot in the ground, and stomp it in and water it, and that's all it needs to take. So that's pussy toes. This is one of my favorite little plants in my whole yard, actually. Certainly this raised bed. It's called showy Loco weed, and it's got these very showy pink purple flowers, very fuzzy leaves, and it's incredibly soft to the touch. And we've seen robins come and they'll actually clip off the bottoms of these leaves and they'll take them back to line their nest with because they're so soft. They're as soft as any down that you've ever felt. That's a part of the legume family, so it does have that symbiotic relationship and fixes nitrogen. This tiny little woodland flower is Lysimachia ciliata. Its common name is loosestrife, but it's not at all related to purple loosestrife, which is introduced and super invasive. This is a native, not invasive plant. It grows well in my shade garden here. It spreads very slowly by creeping roots, and I haven't seen it spread very much at all by seed. It does obviously produce seed. One of the neat things about this plant is it's got a special relationship with a bee that is actually endangered in Canada. It's the Mcropus Cuckoo Bee, and that Mcropus Cuckoo Bee relies on Lysimachia to provide pollen and oil for its young. It's one of the only oil producing plants, and it'll use the oil and the pollen and make basically a cake for its young to eat. One of the elements that my wife and I wanted to add when we were landscaping our yard was some kind of a rain garden. We definitely wanted a water capture system, so we went with your traditional rain barrel. This is fed by over half of our roof, so it actually fills up quite quickly even with a small rainstorm, and then overflows. And so we wanted to do something with the excess water. So we've got a little hose in the back that comes down that all of the excess water drains into. And then underneath where I'm standing, I've trenched in this hose. It comes up over there in our rain garden, and it's plenty moist with even the smallest amount of rain. I live in the Willow Grove area, and underneath all of this topsoil is heavy clay. So we've got this natural clay liner to hold in the moisture. So it was very easy for us to make this rain garden. So in the rain garden, obviously there's nothing blooming right now. We're kind of in between the spring and the summer blooms, but even the texture of the different leaves is interesting. We've got marsh marigold in there, we've got wild strawberry, we've got a couple of the forest understory plants coming in, like mertensia, the lungwort is kind of coming in. We've got wild iris, shooting star, we've got Arctic rush, and then a plant that's native to Manitoba called obedient plant. This is a rare occurrence to not see anything in bloom in the bog garden, in the rain garden. There are a few strawberry plants blooming, but normally it's much more colorful, and we try to do that with all of our areas. We always like to have something blooming at any given time of the year, so that if a pollinator comes and they're hungry, they've got something to eat. And so we've had this self-sustaining rain garden for almost as long as we've had the property, and we've really had to do nothing to it as far as upkeep. It doesn't even really get weedy because it grows so densely. It just outcompetes the dandelions and everything else.